Hello and welcome back to this live episode of the Blues Focus podcast with me, Tommy Kelsall, and the two Joshes tonight, Josh Fletcher and Josh Fitzpatrick. Good evening, lads. How are we?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, not too bad, mate.
Yeah, doing all good. Of course, we will be discussing tonight the news of the day. Wayne Rooney has been confirmed to the new manager of Birmingham City Football Club. Like we said, officially appointed as the new manager, new man in charge after replacing John Eustace after a surprise sacking on Monday, to be fair, after much speculation. In a statement put out by the club this morning at 11 o'clock, they officially announced the new appointment of new manager Wayne Rooney, joining on a 3.5-year deal. He is supported with former England teammate Ashley Cole and former United teammate John O'Shea, with Carl Robinson and Pete Shuttleworth joining too. Shuttleworth was with Rooney at Derby, where Rooney helped his struggling side survive relegation in his first campaign, but failed to in the second season due to a points deduction. Had they not been breached that season, Derby would have survived. Rooney has said he is absolutely delighted to join at such an exciting time. It's very clear that the club has a plan and are committed to realizing their ambition for the club. Both Chairman and CEO Tom Wagner and Gary Cook have expressed their excitement on the United Legends' arrival. Wagner saying Wayne is a born winner. We believe with the support of his coaching staff, the club and our supporters, he will take Blues forward on the next stage of our journey. Adding that his playing philosophy will help realise the ambitions we have set at Birmingham City. Cook has also expressed his delight on Rooney's arrival, believing his appointment, supported with his hand-picked coaching staff, will culminate in a young, attack-minded team that will excite fans. And Rooney finished with saying, "I've played at St Andrews before, and the fans were always loud and passionate. A difficult place to come as an opponent, and now I get to experience what it's like to have them behind us. My job is to elevate the club to the next level, and I can't wait to get started." So, lads, let's get started ourselves. Josh, Fitzpatrick, I forgot about that's going to be tricky tonight, I got to tell you. Coming to you first. You were live with us on Monday night as a guest caller. What's your opinions on tonight? Have any opinions changed, perhaps?
After Gary Cook's comments yesterday, I think maybe there's potential change of mind. I'm still not 100% sure at the moment. Obviously, his track record's not the best, but I'm a Blues fan, mate. I'm going to support whoever's in charge. Just hopefully does a good job and get behind the boys, and I think everyone should. There's going to be people that are going to hate it. We get Blues fans that hate everything, but back him all the way and see what he can do.
Josh Fletch, coming to you. Same question. Immediate thoughts on the appointment?
On the appointment of Rooney, not super excited about it. I was a massive fan of John Eustace and thought that it was harsh. I kind of thought that obviously there was rumours before, a couple of weeks before, that obviously he'd been linked with Rangers' job and that there was some unhappiness at the way we were performing. But I thought after the Huddersfield game, West Brom, I thought, okay, we've turned the corner now. And then it just kind of came out of nowhere, really. And I kind of thought that had gone away. So being a big fan of John Eustace, I was upset. Looking into Wayne Rooney, obviously everyone goes back to Derby getting relegated and his time at DC United. Obviously, he was affected a lot by the points deduction at Derby. They did stay up the first season, and then it almost improved the second season, and it was just that points deduction that took them down. DC United it's a bit of a weird one. Obviously, MLS football is a lot different. They don't have the type of players that we have over in Europe. It's very much they like to get American players and build up their own players. So obviously he's not going to be able to just bring in loads of players because of his name, because they have like a wage cap and things like that. So I think it's a difficult one to look at his time at DC United. I'm more excited about the people that he's bringing in with him. Not necessarily the Ashley Cole and John O'Shea, but the likes of Pete Shuttleworth and Carl Robinson that he's bringing with him. I think they can add something kind of reading into them. They might be able to add something to the club. So I'm a bit more optimistic now that I've read into it a bit more, but still not 100% on how it's going to go, really.
You said that you read into more about the backroom staff or his coaching staff, I should probably say. Anything in particular you found?
Yeah, so Carl Robinson was a Welsh footballer. Didn't have the most amazing footballing career, but looking more at his managerial career, he had 5 years at Vancouver Whitecaps, which quite a long time in the MLS. A couple of seasons ago, did okay, but Vancouver weren't really the biggest team in the MLS at that time, and it wasn't the league that it is now. And then joined Rooney at DC United last season. But more impressively, Pete Shuttleworth is an interesting one. He was actually brought in to Blues by Gary Rowett as a scout when he was there, and stayed on as a scout, kind of went into the analytics side of the game. And then actually when Craig Gardner was in charge for a brief period during COVID, Craig asked him to take a couple of coaching sessions, and he kind of moved into a coaching role there. So he's got some experience of Blues and kind of the setup that we've got. Obviously, it's going to be different now. New owners, the club has changed a lot. But I quite like the fact he's got that coaching blend and the analytical point of view to go off in his side. I know Gary Cook in his letter said that the club is looking more of a data enhanced design now. I know a lot of the teams are going that kind of way. Plymouth are an example of they're going a lot with the data analytics side. So I think that could be quite interesting, seeing that blend of the coaching he's got, but also looking at the analytics side of the game and how we can get the best out of the players. Obviously, we've got the likes of Dembele, who is that like wonderful player, but maybe being able to get more out of the Sunyiches, for example, who, like watching him on just with your eyes, you probably don't see a lot in the game. But when you actually go into the data, I imagine he offers quite a lot. So interesting to see what he brings in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. There's a lot of news going around at the moment. Very much got much more to come as well. We're going to head to our first guest of the evening, just where we have time with certain guests. Mark of the Fat Lads Going Goal. We had him on Monday night. We're happy to have him back this evening. Mark, are you there? It's good to have you on, mate.
How you doing, mate? Who am I arguing with tonight?
Hopefully nobody arguing tonight, but yeah, great to have you back on the show. You came last time with a very balanced argument on Monday night about Eustace's sacking. So tell us, what's your immediate thoughts after the news today?
Well, it wasn't a shock to anyone, was it? We all knew it was coming. The world's worst kept secret. Even the backroom staff was kind of leaked beforehand as well. It is what it is. It's perhaps it's a sideways move, but if you just look at Gary Cook's letter, people are saying, "Oh, what's this misalignment of objectives and all that?" Well, read Gary Cook's letter; is as good as said it. They've obviously at some point said to John Eustace, "Where do you think this team will end up?" He's replied with his honest answer, and they've gone, "Ah, not what we've got in mind." There's nothing wrong with our owners being massively ambitious. We can be the realists. Let the owners be the ambitious ones. Stealing words off my co-host there, Chris Pugh. But I want them to be targeting the Champions League. I want them to be trying to turn us into the next Man City. And if they see Wayne Rooney as the guy to do that, then hey ho, let's go with it. They obviously don't see that drive and passion in Eustace. I would assume they've asked Rooney and he's gone, hell yeah, bring it on. And they've gone in that direction. All new owners switch the manager, don't they?
Yeah,
like within usually a shorter space of time than what we've done, but at some point they'll probably change the manager. To me, and I don't know this for certain, it's just my opinion. It looks as if they've given Eustace the chance to prove he's going to go out there and attack games in the way, say, I don't know, Ipswich do, for example. No fear, just run at them. And he hasn't seen that from Eustace. In the games where we've backed off, where we've given teams way more respect than they deserve, aka Norwich after they got battered by Plymouth, they want Rooney to come in and just throw everything at the wall. They've signed the players to do it, to run at them, to try and hit them hard. And that seems to be the new ethos that they want Rooney to run to. And they obviously didn't see that in Eustace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, throughout the week, the owners obviously have been up against it, what with all the Twitter meltdown and the big choice in sacking Eustace. I mean, has your perspective changed on the owners? Has it made you question them, or has it actually done the opposite, in fact, and made you respect them more?
Made me respect them more because they. Okay, the initial statement of John Eustace has gone wasn't the best, perhaps, but then everyone was screaming at them, "Look, we know he's going. Just tell us." So it did seem a bit rushed to me. And
Mhm.
when I came on here before, I said at some point, I actually thought it'd be Wagner, but I said someone will release an open letter and fans will go, "Oh yeah, fair enough." Next day,
Mm.
Gary Cook releases a letter and fans go, "Oh yeah, they're fair enough." That's what they do. Unfortunately, this is the direction they want to take us, and they are happy to deal with whatever backlash they get on social media to achieve their objectives. And as Gary Cook said in that letter, some decisions they make aren't going to go down well with fans. But Jesus Christ, the bloke hasn't held a training session yet, and people have written him off.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you obviously that meltdown was obviously something you spoke about quite a lot in that live stream on Monday. I mean, obviously you didn't think all the criticism people were giving was to the owners was necessary. I mean, have you seen much criticism still floating about from today, or has it mostly settled down from the letter that Cook published yesterday?
It's generally settled down with the owners. People don't quite want Cook to be sacked anymore, which is nice to hear. The hatred for Rooney seems to have stayed the course a bit, which I don't understand at all. And I don't think I'll ever understand at this point, other than the fact that the media have made a bit of a meme of him. Therefore, it's fun to have a pop at him. Um, I completely disregard his previous managerial experience based on who he was managing. A shoestring budget Derby County with youth players, a DC United team where they ended up sacking a load of staff out the back office because they weren't pulling their weight. The guy's been up against it since day one. So why don't we? It's a wild idea, but why don't we give him a chance and just see what he can do with arguably the best squad he's ever had the opportunity to manage, along with Ashley Cole and John O'Shea.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't see the negatives other than a bloke lost his job, and that's very sad because I don't like people losing their job.
Hmm. I mean, you touched on Ashley Cole and John O'Shea arriving there. Obviously, it was mentioned in the official club statement. Gary Cook even said that Rooney's hand picked them as well, so it's definitely his choice to bring them in. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think they're a good addition?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. They're also retaining their international duties as well, aren't they? Coaching, not playing, obviously. Although I'd still put Ashley Cole in the squad, to be honest. Yeah, back on. And I'm certainly not one of these happy clappy. Oh, always back the boys in blue. Oh, come on, boys in blue. I'm actually quite a pessimistic sod, so it's odd for me to be the voice of optimism here. But give them a chance. I think perhaps on self reflection, maybe I didn't have that personal connection with Eustace that a lot of the fan base seems to have had. Um, maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe I'm just a cold hearted sod. But I don't think Eustace was putting up trees particularly. Yes, we are sixth, and that's all the media bang on about it. Blues were sixth is the new they retired Bellingham shirt. I'm sick of hearing it already. Yes, we are sixth. We're also only 3 points away from 15th. We're as close to 22nd as we are to second. So let's not pretend we're flying high at the top of the table and it's all signed, sealed, and delivered, and we've sacked him. The table gets thrown in the air, turned upside down, and shook up every single Saturday at this stage in the season. One result changes the entire landscape of the championship. So can we please, for the love of God, stop this? We're sixth. How dare we do it? And it's stop comparing it to Rowett because it is so far away from the Rowett sacking that I'm losing my head explaining it to people.
Well, I'm going to make you explain it again because you were saying it on Monday night about how you didn't want it to compare with Rowett's sacking. I mean, just tell us again because you made a really good point on it. Because the differences now between the team we had then compared to now, and also the owners and the ambition. I mean, your thoughts on that then?
So personally, and I've got no way of proving this, so it's just my opinion. Feel free to have a pop at me on Twitter later. I don't think Eustace would have got Blues to 7th place, I think it was, with Rowett's squad. I think Rowett is the better manager, personally. We should be fighting for playoff places with this squad. We've got the squad to do it. Rowett was doing it with a load of rubbish. So when you bring in Zola, who wasn't the best manager, we are going to tank. Those owners just wanted Zola. That's it. They just wanted Zola. They didn't look at anything else. They want, knowing what you know of Knighthead, SCL, Wagner, etc., what they've done so far. Do you think they're the type to go, we know nothing about Rooney, but hey, let's get him in as an aim?
No,
Considering
it doesn't seem like
they've
that,
done, everything they've done for the club so far, you think they're that flippant that they're just going to go, I recognise the name Wayne Rooney, get him in, lads? No. And I will stake my very thin reputation on this being like sorted weeks ago, before the win against Huddersfield, before the win against the Baggies. So again, the lazy media, as Ivory called them, and he's right to do so, that want to keep banging on about, oh, but we're sixth, and oh, but we've just won 2 games. We have, but this decision was already made. That train was already halfway down the track.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. You're also talking about the brand that Rooney could attract through his name. Obviously, with him being the manager now and everything. I mean, how do you think the brand will grow under Rooney, and what do you think the plans Wagner and Cook might have with him?
It's eyes on the club, isn't it? Global eyes on the club. And aside from that, I think Man United tweeted about us earlier. We've always had a bit of a connection with United through the loanees and all that. But they're tweeting about little old Birmingham City. Yeah, Rooney is a sexier name than John Eustace. I'm sorry, John, it kind of is. And it is easier to sell to their branding partners. I mean, Gary Cook even put it in that letter. It is an easier sell, but it's not just that. It's not just, otherwise they put Tom Brady in charge as the manager, and then we'd sell to everyone. It's not just about that. It's just a nice, happy coincidence. Well, not coincidence, but fortunate chain of events that Rooney is known globally, especially in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, thank you very much for coming on again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really good answers, really good insights as well to all the things going on. Thank you very much for coming on again, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate. Just one more thing. I will be quick. One more thing. This whole, the owners expect playoffs now. We better get promoted now after they've done this. The owners don't expect the playoffs. Again, Cook said it in the letter. The idea is we get Rooney in now, get him to see the squad come January when it's time to make those transfer decisions. That's when we can start building. They're not expecting promotion this year. This isn't a sign of that. So can we also drop well, we better finish 5th now then, because it's nonsense. Anyway, thank you, boys.
It's been great, mate. Thank you very much. Interesting points you bring up there, man. Thank you very much. Cheers, man. So Mark Watson there of the Fat Lads Going Goal. Great to have him back on again. Just a reminder, we are live as well. So if you have any questions for us or any opinions, get them in the chat. We'll do the best to read them out. Fitz, question for you while we wait for a few more guests to join. Wayne Rooney, we talked about it a little bit there with Mark. Just what can he bring? What can he attract? I mean, like, could he attract like Premier League quality players to come play for Blues?
100%. You think of the career the guy's had. Like, he's Man United's all-time top goal scorer. Only up until recently, he was England's top goal scorer. The numerous appearances as captain of club and country. The guy's well known, and he's going to have connections with all clubs. He's played for Everton and obviously Man United, and he went over to America, so he knows young talent coming up over there. I think the potential names that he could bring in, obviously we're not going to be signing Lionel Messi next week, but you look at someone like Hannibal. I seen obviously during the transfer window that Man United were offered the chance to send him back on loan to us, and he turned around and he was like, unfortunately, I don't want to drop down a level. I want to be playing Premier League. Someone like Rooney that's played with him as he's come through the academy has now got that big pull to go, mate, come here and I'll teach you what I knew. And come on loan and you can be in Man United first team, or come and show Man United what you've actually got. Come and sign for us permanently and make it to the Premier League and become big that way. You look at other players in the Championship that have gone on and done nothing in their careers because they haven't had the right management. I feel like I've seen a comment a minute ago about Junior Dixon. The guy can score goals. He's proven that for the under-21s at the moment. I think someone like Rooney giving him a chance, you don't actually need a striker. If you've got someone like him that Rooney can improve. I think he's got massive chances of bringing big names. I see it there. Paul Hipkiss has put it. Jesse Lingard, we mentioned it earlier. He's a big name and he's always been associated with ourselves. And could he come back to us? He's not got a team at the moment, but again, it's wages and money. But I think Rooney's that big of a name and that big of a player that he's going to bring in players. I don't think he's going to be looking at 32, 33, 34-year-olds on a 6-month contract like he did at Derby. It's very much going to be, you look at your Buchanan ages of the low 20s, early 20s, late teens that are good players. And I think he's got the name alone with Ashley Cole and John O'Shea. It just brings it in, and I think it makes it all full circle.
Mm-hmm. Got a question here for you then, Josh Fletch. We've got one here. How do you guys think the current players will take to Rooney and his backroom staff?
I think this is an interesting one. I think we've talked about Jay Stansfield, and I think having the likes of Rooney are only going to help him. Obviously, Rooney, we know, one of the best strikers that England have ever had. And I think Stansfield is a similar kind of player to Rooney. Rooney wasn't a big target man. He was more wanted the ball to feet, creating things. And Stansfield's that kind of player as well. So I think Rooney can bring something there. I know we talked about that. Apparently, he's good friends with James Beattie. And, I mean, we know what he did with Che Adams when he was at the Blues. So I'd say definitely, if there's any chance, bring him back. I mean, so I think the likes of Stansfield are only going to do well. I think Ashley Cole, probably one of the best left backs ever in world football. So the likes of Buchanan, Longelo, even, we've seen how he's come in the last couple of games and he's done really well. I think he can only get better with Ashley Cole. Same with the likes of Ethan Laird and Jame on the right as well. They're going to learn so much. They're all young players as well. So they're just going to soak it in. And then obviously John O'Shea, a great defender as well, goes a bit underrated, I think, at his time at Man United. A great defender. So the defenders are only going to learn from him as well. I do worry for certain players. For me, when I heard about Eustace, the first player that came to mind was Bakuna, because I really see that Bakuna was a Eustace player. He was always putting his arm around him, always. He was, even when he was on the bench, you could see that Eustace was trying to get him involved. And I think the last couple of games we've really seen Bakuna's really come out. And for me, I worry that if Eustace goes to somewhere like a Rangers, we'll see Bakuna go. But I am confident that with the names of Rooney, Cole, O'Shea, they will be able to attract players. And I think with the board, with the likes of Craig Gardner, he won't just go for big names that are old on a 1-year contract. They'll get the right kind of players in, like we did with the transfer window just gone, the Ethan Lairds. I think, obviously, Hannibal would be a lovely one to get back, but he's obviously starting to fit into the Man United team now. So that seems like it's not going to happen. But if we could find players like that around the Man United academy, the Everton academy, players like that, I'm sure that with Rooney's pull, he'd be able to go and say, like, look, just because we've still got loads of loan options as well. It's not like last season where we used all our loan options and couldn't get anyone else in. We've brought all these players and we've only got 2 on loan, I think, or 3. But Jame's the Jame and Awu
4,
have got
isn't it?
Options. Yeah, but
we've got Burke on loan as well.
Yeah, Burke, Sansfield. I mean, Awu and Jame, we've got options to buy, I believe. So, and I mean, Jame, I'd give them the money now to get him in. I think already he's proven definitely that he's good enough to step into this team and give competition to the likes of Laird. So I think the players will have, or the coaching staff will have a positive impact on the players. For me, it's more the tactical side that worries me. I haven't really seen a lot from the likes of Cole, Rooney, that the tactical side is there. That's why I hope the likes of this Pete Shuttleworth, Carl Robinson, who have been in the game a long time as managers and can bring that like analytical point of view and the tactical side of the game. I hear like Rooney, when he was at Derby, he seemed much more of a man manager, and it was more the likes of Liam Rossignol who were doing the back room kind of tactics. And I mean, we've seen how Vosinha's doing at Hull now. So if Rooney can get those people around the club with him to help him, then I think it can be positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Got some opinions and some thoughts coming in now from some of you guys in the chat. We've got our own NS Blues here coming on the watching in on the stream. Really love Eustace and really miss him, but I think it's about the project, about the future, how we can put Blues on the map and bring in further investments. We've got one here from SZ Trick. Do you think he will drop long for Iwu, considering he's only had 5 minutes in game time? He was one of the only players that wasn't smiling after the West Brom game too, apparently. Josh Fitz, I can't say it like that, can I? What do you think to that then?
I think it's blank canvas. Everyone's now got to fight for their position. I don't think where we looked at the past few weeks, and you look at players like Hogan, there's obviously been the big Hogan debate of should he have been dropped earlier, should he have been dropped, or Stansfield playing, and you look at everyone's like, Laird's just going to walk back in the team when he come back from injury. I think all that goes out the window now. Rooney's now got 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever it is left of the international break to watch everyone in training, and I think every position, the only person I can see, 2 people potentially that I see don't being moved, Sanderson and Ruddy. I can't see them being taken out of the team, being the big leaders they are. But I don't think anyone's position is safe now. I think you've got to turn up to training. You've got to put the effort in and work your ass off. Otherwise, you ain't getting in that team. And I don't think he'll be scared to say no to people. He had to have it done to him when he was younger. He was told, you weren't ready. He found the right club. He got playing for Everton, scoring bangers. And then got a big move to Man United. But he says big inspiration growing up was he was told that he weren't good enough. And I think someone like Hogan having a striker like Rooney turn around to him and go, mate, you ain't good enough. Sort it out, otherwise you won't play him. I'm hoping after the international break we see a different Hogan. But looking at the Baggies game, I think he's got to look at that starting 11 and think Huddersfield and Baggies back-to-back teams, the exact same. That's our strongest team. You add someone like Keshi Anderson into that when he's back from injury, Ethan Laird back from injury, Buchanan back from injury. Do you mess with the team or do you keep them and maybe make them work their way back in?
I would personally suggest that we maintain a policy of you've got to fight for your place, really. I feel like you've got to maintain that level that you've been performing at. Like Cody Drama, for example, he stepped in for Ethan Laird, who's injured, and he's done a fantastic job, and doesn't deserve to step down after Ethan Laird comes back from injury. So he's got to keep on performing, keep up to that standard.
Yeah.
And obviously he will carry on playing, and as soon as he doesn't or he gets injured, then Ethan Laird steps back in. That's what I personally believe.
But it's the same with Cody Drama. He's got to be given that same standard that he's given now. You can't be sitting there going, we've got a new manager, he's picking me. Oh yeah, I'm the big Billy Big, because that's not going to happen. You'll be dropped quicker than anything else. And like we've all said, Hogan should have been dropped weeks ago. He was dropped for 2 games, and I got to admit, I said to my brother, when he come on against West Brom and he played on that left-hand side, he looked like he had the resurgence of going, I need to actually start playing football properly and doing something impactful. Otherwise, I ain't going to be playing at this club much longer. And I think come January, now that Rooney's... Because this is the big point I mentioned to you earlier. He's not coming as a head coach. He's not a yes man. He's coming as the manager. He is now the person that picks the team. He is the person that picks the players coming in. If Craig Gardner's come to him going, I think we should get this guy, and Rooney's going, no, we ain't getting him. Whereas Eustace was, we have to, because he's head coach. That's what his role is. I think they're giving Rooney more freedom now with the team. And I think it could be, if he's getting the right players working and the right mentality behind the team that we need, I think we could be a dangerous team. But we've got to bond and gel and work together, and everyone's got to keep that consistency. It's pointless being good for a game. And I think that, unfortunately, I see people like back in Bakuna. I think that's his problem. He's not consistent every game.
Do you not think?
I think he has a good game or two, and then he kind of goes wandering for a third, fourth game, and then he comes back again. And all this skillful stuff, Rooney's going to cut that out. Rooney was a straightforward, you run with the ball, or you pass the ball, or you play. No, none of this skillful stuff. He ain't going to want that in his team. And I think a few players might be looking at, they're going to have to see the hard ends, unfortunately, and deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Got a bit of an opposing opinion here, saying, sad day, this is a bad move for Blues. Lower table battle incoming as per last 6 years. I give Rooney 13 months at best and another massive payoff. Interesting. Josh, Fletch, which one, do you agree with that? Do you feel like that might be a possibility?
I think it goes on, as you say, like the mentality. I think the next couple of games, for Rooney in particular, it couldn't have come at a worse time in the fact that Eustace seemed to have turned a corner with the last two games. It was like we go back to the Norwich game, but I think a lot of that straight from the Huddersfield game, we were coming away and like we did the podcast and we were like, we're not even going to talk about the Norwich game because the Huddersfield game was so positive. That West Brom game again was so positive. And I think now we've got rid of it, everyone's gone, why have we done it now? And I was like that, exactly the same. I think it was, personally, I still think it's the wrong decision. Like I loved Eustace and I think we'd started playing the way that he wanted to play. Like when he was at Kidderminster, they all said that he wanted this. He was very much like possession football, but quick pace. And it looked like we were finally starting to play that. And then they've just pulled the rug out of him because they want Rooney in. And unfortunately, we've got Middlesbrough next, Michael Carrick, his ex-teammate, who probably knows a lot about Wayne Rooney and how he structures his team. After that, we've got Hull, Liam Rossignol, his assistant at Derby, who a lot of people give credit to Rossignol rather than Rooney for that Derby team. So I think the next two games are going to be really tough. And if it doesn't start well for Rooney, unfortunately, I think fans aren't really with him anyway. So it might get even worse. I think that might affect the players as well. So I think it's probably come at the wrong time. As I say, I was a big fan of Eustace and things seem to be going up with the club. So I wouldn't be surprised if we lose our first couple of games under Rooney and it's not pretty. I'm just hoping that the reaction of the players will turn around. And as you say, we've got competition for places now. And I think that's what Rooney's got to instill in that, like, your place is not a given. If you have a bad game, like there's a person waiting to take your spot if you're not ready. And that seemed to be a very much like Sir Alex Ferguson mindset of if you're not good enough, like goodbye, because we've got somebody else that'll take your place. And even the mentality of like no one's bigger than the club with Sir Alex, like
might be instilled, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that is the mindset that Rooney comes in with. We have competition for places and it can only help the team that way. But I think it's going to be a really hard start for Rooney.
Just quickly working out, you said something about obviously Michael Carrick being Middlesbrough boss, Rossignol being Hull. Couldn't that work in our advantage though? Because you think of Rossignol's management very much has been focused off what Rooney was teaching him. So Rooney's going to know Rossignol quite well, and he may know mind games with Michael Carrick of how to set up differently to play against players like that. Yeah,
I'd say so. I think the only thing with that is that obviously Carrick, Rossignol have had a lot longer with their squads. And although Middlesbrough have had a poor start season, they're starting to turn it round now.
5 unbeaten at the moment.
Yeah, Hull have had a very good start to the season. Yeah. So personally, I think it's not them saying, oh God, we've got to go up against Rooney. It's more them going, oh yes, we're going up against Rooney. Like, I think they'd be a bit more scared if it was Eustace's squad personally than a Rooney squad.
But at the same time, they could look at it could be, oh, we're going up against Rooney. We're going up against Birmingham City. We don't know how Rooney... Yeah. A lot of people are saying that Rooney likes to play the same kind of style as Eustace, the 4-2-3-1. But we have no clue what kind of style he's going to play because Eustace was a very much get it to your wingers and go. Rooney could bring in like a tiki-taka kind of play that Arsenal had. And no one knows what he's going to do with this club. And I think Birmingham City, as opposed, don't get me wrong, everyone wants to see him doing the training videos and see him in training, see him with the team. I think they've got to play it sensible and not put training videos up. Don't give any of our opponents the chance of seeing what Rooney could potentially be doing. And I'd say give it a couple of weeks before you're posting something like that. Let him have the privacy with the team and obviously get some photos. We all want to see the Rooney on the cop with the shirt or whatever, but I think we've got to give him that chance to not show people what he's going to bring out and see how he goes.
Yeah.
Hit him with the unknown.
Yeah, definitely. We will get to some questions very soon, but we are bringing on another speaker just now. You'll have known this guy if you watch my matchday vlogs. He's quick-witted, funny. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Jack on, so it's my dad, unfortunately. So, Dad, you're coming on the show today. Is he there? You might be on mute, Dad. Is he even there? I don't think he is now.
No, I am here. Yeah.
There he is. There
You
he
told me.
Hey.
You told me you'd unmute me. I didn't have to unmute myself. I did all the work again. It's like going to match days after all the driving and everything else. Yeah,
Here we go. Honestly,
I know
it's all out in the open now, isn't it?
I know. Yeah. So thanks for letting me on, guys. Nice to see you. As I say, long time listener, first time caller, as they always say, don't they? So, no, great to see you both, Joshes, as well. Nice to come on and chat to you all as well. So, yeah, go on, Tommy. What do you want to know?
Well, let's begin then. Tell us your immediate thoughts after the news today, then.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I think the most important thing to think here, right, the joy of being a football fan, isn't it? It's all about opinions, isn't it? And that's why we're all here chatting and we're all interested. And everyone's got a different way of seeing things a little bit, haven't they? So I think you're always going to get that on you. And I think change of manager or change of anything always brings around that sort of polarizing debate, doesn't it? Because, you know, is it the right time? Is it the right change? You know, that sort of stuff. I know Josh Fletcher saying about big fan of Eustace, etc. And I think there's a lot of that going around, because I think part of that really is that John Eustace come in during a time where, you know, if you think about it, you know, we're at a very low ebb, weren't we? Not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. So, you know, the fact that he came in and he seems like an honourable guy, a good guy, a nice person and all that. And I'm sure, you know, not that I've got any experience of that, I'm sure he's a fantastic football coach as well. And you probably get some of that, you know, that he kind of like stabilised the team and the fan base and all of those sort of things. Now, from my personal point of view, though, I think I've got a slightly different take on the Eustace one, really. I mean, I was never like a great sort of fan of Eustace, and my opinion hasn't really changed in that way, I guess, really. I always felt that he did feel a bit interim anyway, even, you know, he's a BSHL type appointment, isn't he, really, in that way as well. So I always felt like that he was always at some point we were going to see a change to somebody. You know, he isn't hugely experienced as a manager, and that's why he's head coach, I guess. But it's interesting that, you know, you've already mentioned, really, is that Rooney's coming in as a first team manager, not as a head coach. And I think that distinction, that change in that title is really important. I think they've highlighted that, really. What that really means in sort of practical terms, I don't know, because we don't really know what is, because again, there's that talk about Craig Gardner, and he currently is technical director. And I think, again, people maybe misconstrue what he does, because during those dysfunctional times of BSHL, he kind of seemed to be doing everything, didn't he, really? I mean, from getting loan players in to, you know, sourcing new owners as well. I mean, he seemed to be doing absolutely everything. So his role, I think, needs defining as well. But my take on that would be he does need to go back to what a technical director really is there for. It's not just about recruitment. We have a recruitment team now, which unbelievably we didn't have before. You know, some clubs have, you know, sort of recruitment departments. You know, we didn't even have anybody even looking into that. So I think there's big changes ahead. And I think as supporters, we've got to understand that the owners that have come in now, they've got big ambitions for the club. And sometimes big ambitions come with tough decisions to take us forward. We're in a completely different space now. And I just don't see that any of the previous discussions about where we were and who we are really that relative anymore, really. I think we need to understand we're moving into a new area. And we as supporters need to get on board with some of where we're trying to go to. You can't be ambitious if you don't have sort of big plans, and then you act on those big plans. It's almost like a year zero, isn't it? Where we've come in, they're making those changes. They're making the changes behind the scenes, and this is the first sort of noticeable change that we're getting with a change on the playing side of things. But just going back to transfers, for example, in the summer, a lot of people says we'd had a great transfer window. Now potentially we probably have had, haven't we? But it's all in, if the proof's in the pudding, isn't it, really? You only have a great transfer window if those transfers change into actually being good players for us. So it's a little bit the same with Wayne Rooney, isn't it, really? Is there's potential there that he could go on and be a great manager for us? There's no guarantees in football, is there? There's no guarantees that you're going to say Wayne Rooney, big name, good fit for the club, because I'm sure they think he is a good fit for the club, but that doesn't guarantee that he's going to be a success. Now, if he's not a success, I think the same fate befalls Wayne Rooney that's fallen John Eustace. If he doesn't provide what they want for him, I think he'll be gone as well. And I think we need to understand those tough decisions sort of will come our way, really. So from my reading of the kind of, what did they say, no fear, that isn't necessarily talking about how we're going to go and just play all out attack, or we're going to play a certain style. It's more a mentality. It's about how we as a club approach things. And I thought in the last 2 games, we saw some of that, where we did actually go and take the game to teams. And we showed that, you know, there is a no fear amongst us, the fan base, the players, the coaches, everybody. And you need a bit of some of that, really, within a successful club and a successful business. They're here to be successful, and we need to be supportive of that. Because why wouldn't we be, I guess? Why wouldn't you want to be supportive of something that's trying to make the club successful, you know, and achieve its potential? Because undoubtedly the potential's there. We know that. We can see it. We can feel it. The outside world probably doesn't realise as much as we realise just what the potential of Birmingham City is, and Birmingham as well. That connection to Birmingham as a whole really is really, really important to the new owners. But it's important to us as well. You know, that sense of being connected to something. So yeah, I think there's some really kind of exciting times ahead. The fireworks on the start of the game always reminds me of kind of, we're in a different space now, isn't it? As soon as they went off against Leeds, you felt, okay, we're something new's happening here. It's not typical Blues. It's not where we've all been. This is a new start, like I say, year 0. And you know, I like a bit of change anyway. I'm that sort of person. I think it gets the excitement going. It's an entertainment industry, isn't it? We want to be entertained. You want to pay your money and go. And to be honest with you, the results and the performances last year, and I know it was a tough time, I'm not particularly holding John Eustace for that, but there are examples of, like, we played away at Watford, if you remember, and it was such a poor, insipid, let's try and keep the score down type of performance, that you can't continue with that if you want to be a successful club. You've got to be able to have some kind of energy about it. You've got to go and try at least. If we get beat, you get beat. But you've got to go and have a go in these sort of things, and just sitting back and, you know, accepting, okay, we only lost 3-0 or 3-1, whatever. That's not really what you want to sort of see from a football club as a supporter, is it? You want your club to have some pride and to go and give it a go. So Rooney's not going to win every game, is he? He might not win the first couple. He might not. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at a little bit. And yeah, I'm excited, and I think the players will be excited, because why wouldn't you be? Because you're playing for a great club. You know, you've got some really interesting people coming around the club now. And I do think there's more changes to come, big changes off the field and on the field. They are just at the beginning. So we've got a January window coming up. We've got a next seat, you know, in season. If we don't finish in the top 6, that is genuinely is not the end of the world. We will have a really bright future. It's just about getting things in alignment now, isn't it? Like I said, getting people on board with that vision.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Josh, did you have a question for this one?
Yeah, evening, Paul.
Evening, Josh.
Going off what you said earlier, you're talking about Eustace being interim. Do you look at it potentially as BHSL brought him in, obviously, last season? Do you reckon they brought him in just to bring the crowd and to get the fans connected back with the club for the sale, or do you reckon he was generally brought in on the purchase of being a good manager, and it's just not?
No, I don't think he was brought in just to be an interim necessarily. I think that's my take on it, really. I think he was a bit of a low cost option, wasn't he? Because I know we were looking at other options. I think it was Warburton, when it Mark Warburton, who they sort of said, well, he potentially experienced manager, and John Eustace potentially would have come as a coach with him, having worked at QPR. He went to West Ham. And then they bring John Eustace in. And I'm sure John Eustace has got a lot of good connections within football and in the group. And I think they kind of thought, well, this guy's a good coach and the right fit again. Sometimes you need to get the right fit at the right times, don't you? So, yeah, I think that was kind of where he was at in terms of, I don't think he was brought necessarily just to sort of, you know, just to, while the sale was going on. But I think the new owners have been reasonably fair to him. I mean, there's never a good time, is there, to make a change. And actually making a change when we're in a good position is better for a new manager coming in, because you're not having to pick up a a sort of demoralised squad that's on a losing streak. So actually, as long as he comes in and gets things ticking over pretty early, we should be in a good place, really. But so I like John Eustace. I'm sure he'll have a really good career, and I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm sure he's probably going to be in demand from people as well, because, like I say, I think he's a good person and a really, really good football coach as well. It's just maybe where we're at now in the next stage is that's kind of where Birmingham City's at. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see him end up somewhere like QPR or something like that. Everyone said Rangers were talking to him. I just wondered whether they meant Queen's Park Rangers rather than Glasgow Rangers.
To bring you a question actually from the chat, we've got one here saying, why did we choose Rooney? What formation will we play, and where do you think we'll finish in the table? And also he said, love the content and watch it all. So thank you, mate. Just pose that to you there, mate.
Yeah, well, why Rooney? Well, I think there's multiple reasons why Rooney, isn't it? I mean, obviously he brings with him that profile. I think he can attract players to the club, does bring that profile to them. I don't know what sort of style he's kind of like everyone is thinking that he might play. And all I know as well, people will say, oh, well, he's a great player. That automatically means he's not going to be a great manager. And that's true, I think, in many ways. Doesn't necessarily mean that. But if you look at his record as a footballer, I mean, the kind of dressing rooms he's been in, the players he's been around. I mean, he's won the Champions League. He's won the Premier League 5 times. He's, like you say, he's been England captain, Man United captain. There's a reason why people are made England captain and Manchester United captain, obviously. They're not just put there because of your name or whatever. And then his management career, his coaching career, I think it has been a learning journey for him. And I think that needs to be admired a little bit as well. He's gone and put himself in tough situations to learn how to be a coach and a manager. I mean, there are distinctions, I think, between a coach and a manager. He's just recently done his pro license as a coach. So he's on that journey, and then going to America and going back there where he played and taking that team on, who I think had finished bottom of their sort of division as well. So I think he's been brave in that. And maybe he just feels now that Rooney, with the experiences he's got, the profile he's got, he's now, he's primed to come and play a part in what's going to be a kind of very visible football club now in the next few years. Isn't it? We're going to be very high profile. Everyone's talking about that Netflix documentary, but surely to God, that's going to come in it. I mean, we're the most soap opera drama type football club I've ever known. And even the new chapter they had, didn't they? They said they've got a new chapter. Well, surely that's a link to Netflix, isn't it? If I've ever heard it. So I mean, I can't wait to see that. But to be quite honest, I think it'll be absolutely brilliant. I think I'll be glued to it.
I mean, you're very big on brand and definitely sort of the brand development. I mean, obviously, with the appointments of Rooney, I mean, can he attract big players? Can he get us the bigger brand deals, perhaps, and bigger ideas for the city? Because as well, just to point out as well, England and the UK and Ireland have been will be hosting the 2028 Euros. And they have mentioned that Birmingham will be one of the venues. So whether that be Villa Park.
No, it is Villa Park. It's already been decided.
Yeah, it would have been great. I know,
but I mean, but that's the type of things I think that they would have thought. In terms of, I don't think he's going to be working on the brand side of things, isn't it? But people like Gary Cook, obviously, they've been tasked with making the club profitable and sustainable. But the way you do that is by making sure you open up new commercial revenues and things like that, and 100% we need to do that. No football club is ever going to not be tasked with trying to increase revenue, and that's going to be from actually people in the stadium, but more so now in a more technological world, there's a lot of other things that we can be focusing on as well. But the more money that brings in, the better players we have. And at the end of the day, it's simple, isn't it, football? If you've got better footballers, you're going to win things, aren't you? And you're going to be more successful. So that will be the approach. I'm absolutely certain of that. His profile in America alone will be significant to us. Makes you very newsworthy. It makes you want to be part of something that's exciting. Surely that's what we're all about, isn't it, really? So, yeah, I mean, initially, like I said, when the name Wayne Rooney comes up, there is some reservations there, isn't there? Of course there is. But, this is, it's another step in taking us towards being a football club that people take seriously. A few years back when the stadium's crumbling and, we've got nothing, and, the idea that even spin forward 18 months, we've now got a stadium's been rebuilt, the team's been rebuilt, new manager, off field, commercially we're starting to grow and things. So, yeah, I think the brand is absolutely right. I've always wanted that for a long time, a vision for the club of where we see Birmingham City, what do we want them to be? And, we've got the most recognisable, fantastic badge logo that anybody could possibly want. And, yeah, we've got, second city. Everything is ready. The transport revolution's taking place in the city. All of those things, the youngest demographic, in Europe or something like that, everything is in place for us to be a major football powerhouse. But at the minute, short term, this is where we're at, and it's really, really exciting. I've been supporting the club all my life, and I've never been more excited than I am now to go down to the games again. And that's a relief, isn't it, after the last few years where we spent our time protesting about ownerships and Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Who wants to be thinking about that kind of nonsense? There's enough time in the world for that, is there?
Absolutely. Dad, thank you very much for coming on. Great getting
you
right.
No problem
on this. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Great stuff. Thanks, lads. Have a good one.
Cheers, Dad. Cheers very much. We are also bringing on a Derby fan as well now to get some interest, get some insight into Wayne Rooney's time at obviously Derby County. So we've got Jack Bryan of the Rams Reviews. Hello, Jack. Can you hear us, mate? Oh, I think he might be on mute. Is he there? Might be having some technical issues. Just 1 second. Okay. I don't.
Oh, there we are.
There we go. Hello, Jack. Mate. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. Thanks. How are you guys?
Not too bad, mate. So assuming you've seen the news about Wayne Rooney joining, obviously he was the Derby manager for 2 years, from 2020 to 2022, I believe he was. Just give us your insight and sort of how he was at Derby and the manager and the sort of style he played, really.
Yeah, so I mean, it was obviously a very tumultuous time. That goes without saying. He came in and first couple of, so he was obviously player first. And then when Philip Cocu was sacked with Derby at the foot of the table, he and three other coaches, Liam Rossinier, Justin Walker, who's now at Hull with Rossinier, and Shay Given, took charge of the first two games with kind of equal authority. It was mental. And then Rooney got the interim job in kind of the end of November. And by the 15th of January, got them off the bottom of the table, out of the relegation zone, and got the job permanently. So, there was a solid start there, but it kind of, the rest of that season, they were pretty good. They had 39 points from 32 games heading into March, just drawn with arch rivals Forest. And then they got 5 points from the next 13 and obviously required that a point from that big game against relegation rivals Sheffield Wednesday on the final day.
Yeah, I mean, how was that first season then? Because obviously you say there that you just survived on the last day of the season, but what was the football like that season? Did you like him as a manager?
Yeah, I mean, what he did brilliantly as a manager, if we're distinguishing again between a manager and a coach, was the way he kind of was an ambassador for the club and the way he kind of brought the fan base together, particularly during the period in administration, as a sort of beacon of hope there, saying even after the relegation against QPR, it was the game when they got relegated. Even after that, he was saying, look, I'm committed, I'm going to stick around, I love this club and the fans. Obviously that didn't happen. So that left a bit of a sour taste with a lot of people. But his man management was brilliant, and I'd say getting the fans on side. In terms of the football he played, it wasn't great in that first kind of half season or so. As I say, that run-in was abysmal. 5 points, winning 2 draws from 13 games before that final day. There's a lot of people kind of calling for his head at that point. But what then transpired with what was a very difficult summer, even before going into administration, there was a situation where Derby could only have 23 players of professional standing in the squad, which meant players who'd played, I think, 5 games. in senior football. And so, yeah, it was really restricted. And then they went into administration, won the game the next day after that announcement. They kind of kept doing that. They kept defying the odds.
I remember that, yeah.
So there was that game. There was the win against Bournemouth after the further 9-point deduction was announced. Even on Good Friday, they beat Fulham at home, who went on to be champions, of course. So there were some really good results in there. And the home form was great. I'll just pull it up again because I had a look before to what the exact numbers were. But at home, they were great. And, he really instilled a kind of siege mentality. It was them against the world. Yeah, they had 40 points at home in the 21-22 season, 11 wins, 7 draws. However, on the road, it was pretty awful. 3 wins, 6 draws, 14 defeats. There was kind of nothing really to go off there. And, I mean, he liked to keep the ball. We had, I think, the 9th highest possession in the division. Goalkeeper would come out quite a way. Ryan Alsop was, very advanced at times. There was kind of moments where it's heart in mouth. But despite that and the way he wanted to play, they did only score 45 goals across the season. Tom Lawrence, the top scorer, with 11. And everyone, the second highest scorer after that, had 4 goals. So they were shy on goals. But in the circumstance, again, having a very threadbare squad, having to give chances to so many youngsters, even Aaron Cashin, who has done so well since being given his chance, he was only allowed to play in February of that season because of it was a really, really difficult situation for him. And he, they would have stayed up without the points deductions, which was more than what we thought was going to happen when even the first points deduction was announced. I mean, I know that sounds like a ridiculously low bar, but when you dock 21 points, you are effectively relegated there and then. To keep them going and keep them on side for as long as he did is testament to him and his man management.
No, absolutely. I mean, just speaking as Derby as a whole then, so has the club and the team progressed since then, or has it been sort of the same? Because obviously, in terms of how Rooney did really and how it is now, is there a difference? Can you tell? Is there a comparison?
Yeah, I mean, obviously so much has changed. So he left. The day he left was actually the day that David Clowes was announced as the preferred bidder, and they announced that the takeover was going to be done within a week. So at that point, Chris Kirchner had pulled out the week before. Chris Kirchner, of course, was going to have Gary Cook as his CEO, interestingly.
Of course, yes.
There's a link there, which you wonder maybe, the links between Gary Cook and Rooney's agent historically, Gary Cook trying to get Rooney to Man City. You wonder if some of that has come into this. But yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, so much has changed. And, Rossignol had 5 players when they went back for pre-season a few days later after Rooney left. So it's been a complete overhaul. Structurally, there's been a lot of change. And obviously, Paul Warne plays a very different style of football. But, I mean, in terms of formations and style of play, as I say, wanted to keep the ball. We'd often have a sort of 4-2-3-1. And, yeah, I think the finishing and the kind of the final third play wasn't quite there, but how much of that was because we had young players being thrown at the deep end and things like that as well. I don't know. I mean, he's not done great over in the MLS, really, but I guess this is the first time that he's coming into a project that is on the up and looks exciting from the outside. I mean, you guys can tell me, is that the case? But
it definitely is. There's a lot of hype around it at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a real opportunity for him now, where he's not got at least one hand tied behind his back. Because really, even when he came in, he had one hand tied behind his back. And that January window in 2021, he got a few loan signings through in the last few days. By the time, by the summer, with the professional standing, then going into administration in September, he certainly had both hands tied at that point. And yeah, this is a big opportunity for him now to hopefully showcase what he can do, because there were some glimpses of, I'd say, a very, very good man manager. He conducted himself well, and some of the football was good. I mean, if he sticks with the focus on young players as well, And that wasn't just, I mean, obviously there was more of that because of the administration situation. But if he can bring through some more youngsters and develop youngsters that are in and around the first team as well, and kind of have this long-term vision, which I imagine, they've given him a 3.5-year deal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It could be really exciting. You've got a young manager there, but yeah, it's as I say, I personally would say, considering the circumstances, he did well. Depending on who you ask, you might get some other opinions, but I think there's potential there for him to be an exciting young manager. But the jury's out at the moment, and we'll have to see how he does. Obviously, coming in, as I say, in an exciting time, but also I guess there's that bit of extra pressure in a sense coming in when you had a manager who'd got you into the playoffs as early as it was. So it'll be how he handles that as well.
Just to quickly jump in, just curious. Obviously, you've seen how his formation, his tactics, and his style of play. How do you generally think Rooney will do now he's at a club that will give him the backing and the money to buy players? Obviously, unfortunately, you guys didn't have the opportunity to. But with him now, we're getting the chance to have the money and the players and basically go for who he wants. What do you think he will actually bring to Birmingham City with that kind of backing?
See, I think this is what's exciting, and I mean, obviously, as I say, still somewhat unknown. But I think for that possession-based football that he wants to play, he can spend on some, some decent technical players. Maybe get, obviously, pull in a few contacts as well. He's going to have loads of contacts and the network now on top of your recruitment setup that's kind of coming in to play now that wasn't there a few years ago. I think, there can be, there may well be a couple of loans from the likes of Manchester United. He pulled in a favour and got Ted Mengi in at Derby in his first season.
He was a great player for us, incidentally, as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of links. Obviously, of course, as well, there's Lee Buchanan. Christian
Yes,
Bielik,
of course, yes.
The
absolute dynamite for us at the moment.
Yeah. From the Derby side as well, there's already been some paper talk about the likes of Max Bird, Erin Cashin. How much of that is just paper talk? I mean, I couldn't say, I have no idea. But, you may well go in for a couple of the youngsters that are still at Derby. That wouldn't be completely out of the question, the same way Liam Rosenior was reportedly after Max Bird until he got injured. But yeah, I think it depends how much pressure there is on him for instant success as well. If he's got a couple of seasons and he can get, as I say, some good young players in and implement his style of football and build this sustainably, which is what you need and what you know, as well as I know, is really important, because it can go horribly wrong if you don't do it that way. Then this could be really exciting, and I'll be watching with interest, I have to say.
Excellent,
I'm just
mate.
curious, just a quick question to ask. Just curious, obviously coming away from Rooney, you mentioned him then, Lee Buchanan. Obviously, we've got Christian Bielik as well, who's absolutely adored by Blues fans. What are your opinions on them two as young players growing up now, getting roughly to the prime of their career? What are your opinions of them when they were at you?
Yeah, so Bielik he was a brilliant, brilliant player. And, people were saying easily get to the Premier League. They're easily going to make the 10 million they spent on him back and then some. And then obviously the first ACL happened. He came back. He made such a difference. That was actually he came back as Rooney sort of took charge for the first time. And then he did his ACL again and came back in that comeback against you guys, actually, with his late equaliser. Yeah, the overhead
kick. Got injured as well.
Yeah. So, he's very injury prone, but he's a great player. And, I think if he can stay fit, he'll be great. Lee Buchanan, there was some kind of mixed opinions of him at Derby. Young player who could thrive. Kind of rotated with Craig Forsyth at Derby a fair amount. But yeah, I think he's decent. He had a decent season in Germany. He got in somewhat limited opportunities. I didn't see his name pop up that much. But he did play 21 games, only 2 starts out there. But obviously, that's the Bundesliga, that's top tier. Coming back to the Championship now, he's had that experience, a year abroad. What that's added to his game, and he's working under a manager he knows really well. So I would hope, he can kick on as well. I think he will. To be honest, I think he's good and will be. I think again, I think maybe he was, as a young player, a bit more affected by what was going on, all the links. There were various links with him having to move away throughout that administration season. Maybe that made a difference. I don't know, but I think he's a solid player. So yeah, there's two good players there. But Bielik in particular, if he stays fit, then he could be a top Championship player at least.
Yeah. No, well, we haven't had him had any knocks or anything just yet, so fingers crossed he stays fit. But Jack, thank you very much for coming on. Jack there of the Rams Review there, mate. Thank you very much for coming on, sharing your opinions on Rooney and has given some insight on his managerial career at Derby. So yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate. So I think we're just going to finish off this episode of the podcast with just a few questions to us and to Josh's here. Let's find some of the questions then. So Billy C says, with Rooney having control over transfers, can you name a couple of realistic signings Rooney can complete? Who wants to take that one?
I had a think of just while you were talking. I saw one pop up about that apparently Rooney likes to play with one up front. I know Stansfield has been doing that. We talked about obviously Hogan potentially coming back into form. Personally, I think we might see the back of Hogan in January. I think Rooney will kind of be wanting to get away from those kind of players. Duke's a weird one because obviously he brings something completely different. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just stays around. But for me, thinking about that one up front, I think the likes of Rooney coming in, Clark Harris is back on the table.
I said this in the summer. He's a guy we need to sign. He's proven he can do it.
Yeah, I think he was one that obviously we were linked with him in the summer and it didn't quite go through. And I think because he didn't go through, it was a bit like, okay, we've lost it now. And obviously Stansfield coming in and doing so well. But I think with Rooney coming back, I think that one's definitely back on the table because I think he'll look and see Rooney and go, that's where I want to be. I want to play under him. So I think that's definitely one back on the table. We've obviously talked about like Man United players coming in on loan. And the likes of Diallo, who's at Sunderland last year.
Good shout.
Absolutely amazing. The only thing with him is obviously United aren't having much luck with right wingers at the moment. They all seem to be having trouble unfootball related. So I think when he's
they've all got women issues.
Yeah. When he's back fit, I think he'll be pushed into the team a bit like Hannibal. But if he's not, definitely, I'd love to see him in. It's a shame that the likes of, they mentioned Mengi there. It's a shame he's gone to Luton because I would have loved to have seen him back at the Blues as well. Maybe on loan Luton have bought him now. So it's unfortunate, but players like that. Yeah, players like that, I think we would be able to attract either Man United players youngsters that probably aren't cut out for the first team and probably won't, that are looking to move away, or even players from a bit lower down, like youngsters from Derby or maybe even from America that want to come over with the American owners. Rooney will be able to attract those types of players as well.
Got another question here then. Says, what is the realistic expectations for the season now then?
I don't think they change. I think you look at last season, 17th, the last 6 years, we've had 5 years of relegation battles. I think they bring Rooney in on the basis of they want a top 14. If you finish in more than 14th, they're going to be happy because they're going to look at that as that's a significant increase to last season, where finishing 16th, I saw someone put it the other day, we'll finish 16th, that's an improvement. Okay, it's one place. They're going to want 3, 4, 5, 6 places, not just one. They're going to look at that and they're going to be thinking, right, if we can get a top 10 finish, for example, even if we finish in 10th, okay, that gives next season we look at playoffs, or we look at getting 8th, and it slowly build up. But I don't think they changed their opinion on what they want from the season. I think it's just, I read something earlier. Obviously, we've said a lot about Eustace going after 2 good wins. Well, I read something earlier, an inside report that said that apparently he was gone in the summer and they were waiting for Rooney's contract with DC United to run out. That's obviously now ended. We haven't had to pay any money for him to come over. So if Eustace has had that in mind, fair play to the guy. Like, he knows he's on limited time. But I think that there's no difference to what they're wanting. I think if that's the case, then it's always been Rooney that's what they're looking at and that's what they're deciding. I don't think the opinion changes. Top 12 is that I'd be happy with finishing 10th to 12th, 13th, 14th. Just a good improvement on last season, but not expecting too much.
Another question, perhaps from a relative of yours here, Josh, but it's Kieran Fitzpatrick asks, do you think he will bring any of the Street Striker challenges to Blues training? Did anybody watch Wayne Rooney's Street Striker?
My brother's been going on about this all day. It's your day today and yesterday. And he's like, oh, you watch this? And I was like, no, I have no clue what it is. All I know is no, he keeps telling me to watch this. I'm going to have to give it a watch and have a look. But if he's bringing people in, as long as they can kick a ball and put a ball in the back of the net, who cares?
What about you, Fletch? Have you watched Street Striker before?
Yeah.
It was a show like early 2010s, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was always one of those shows that you always think you can go on it, and when you're a kid, oh yeah, I could do that. I'd win that.
Soccer AM, when they used to do the thing of the Soccer AM academies.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I think he can bring his striking talents. Hopefully, we can get Stansfield scoring, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hogan leaves, and maybe we get a couple either young strikers or Clark Harris through the door. So definitely expect us to see an attacking style of play now, because that's obviously what the board want. And I think it's interesting you're saying about the expectation of the season. And when I heard that Eustace was going, one of my first thoughts was, but they've built the team for him, for how he wants to play. And then now it's come out that they were potentially looking at Rooney from the start. I think it kind of makes sense that they might have been building the team for Rooney, with the likes of Bielik, who he's worked with, Buchanan, he's worked with, Laird, he's probably seen at United. I imagine there's some players they probably brought in for Eustace to help him out. But I think at Derby, I think he played a 4-2-3-1 as well. I don't know what he's played at DC United, but
he plays 2 strikers because he's got Christian Benteke and someone else up front.
Okay. So maybe he might want to switch it up a little bit. But if we're going with this kind of attacking mindset, the team that we've built so far does kind of make sense for Rooney.
I know what you mean, yeah. It's definitely got shades of it, yeah.
Yeah,
the question I'm more curious about is who do you realistically think he gets rid of in January? Who's not safe?
I think that Hogan could potentially be gone. I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Mark Roberts will go. Etheridge, probably want to get him off the wage bill to get some younger players. It's more like the older players. I wouldn't be surprised if we'd see the likes of Gardner stay, mainly because of Craig. I'd like to see Duke stay, purely because I think I
think Duke retires at the end of the season.
Yeah.
You think?
I
think he stays. And he either retires this year, or next season will be his calling card, and they'll retire next season.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to go if you want to keep fans on side.
He's going to be indestructible, and he'll retire when Birmingham City are back in the Premier League.
Well, we can all hope and pray. That's definitely.
Mark Noble did it with West Ham, didn't he? He said he played 2-3 seasons longer because he wanted to get West Ham into Europe. Duke wants to get Blues into the Prem.
Well, it might have to be. It might be fate. It might be written in the stars for Lucas Djukovic to take us back to the Premier League. He
could do what George Friend did last season. So George Friend, I noticed that a lot of home games, he kind of took that coaching role while still playing. Yeah. I feel like Duke could do that. Work with Stansfield. You've got young players. He'd be good at working with a player like George Hall, that he could teach him, because I've noticed this season George Hall has put on a lot of weight, like strength, muscle.
Yeah,
he looks a built guy. if Duke teaches him to back into defenders and to play that strength,
Yeah,
he
he could
be
become more of an
lethal.
attacking player. Yeah, I know what you
He
mean
could be
by
lethal
that.
in that centre and getting that ball dropping into him. You've got Miyoshi or Bakuna, Anderson, Dembele running either side, and Stansfield down the middle. That could be lethal.
Mm-hmm. No, very interesting. Anything else to talk about before we wrap this one up, guys?
Just quickly on that Euro comment that you made, obviously your dad said that Villa Park's been chosen. Well, when we had the Euros a couple of years ago, I know that Old Trafford was picked for it, and they dropped it a month before the competition started.
So
if we get a new stadium, there's potential chances we could be hosting. I'd love to see it, don't get me wrong, but
it's interesting that they're sharing it around, obviously, the United Kingdom and Ireland as well. Obviously, most of the stadiums will be in England, of course, because we've just got majority of the stadiums.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean, like, because I remember that United one very well, because it was across pretty much the whole entire of Europe, wasn't it? So there was places like Switzerland and Italy that they took up some of the competitions. I mean, it was at the Allianz as well at some of the games. I mean, yeah, I think we should still press on, because obviously it's great for the club if we have a great stadium. It's great for everything that we do around the team as well. But also, like, revenue-wise as well, whether we get the Euros or not, it's fantastic to offer out for other different venues and events. And like, it would be great, obviously.
The only thing I think is a bit stupid regarding the Euros is the fact that Gareth Southgate has decided to say that England are going to fight for their position. We are 100% not making that Euros competition if we play for that position, because it'll too much get to, and England will bottle it like always.
Do you think that we're going to put too much pressure on ourselves to try and be in the actual competition?
I think because he said that he wants more competitive games rather than just getting an easy pass into it. Well, why don't you play people like Scotland, Wales, Ireland? Scotland give us a really good game in the Euros last time, or the World Cup, and then they give us a good game the other week until we have to just overrun it. But they give you good competition. They're not pushover teams anymore. Like Wales and Scotland have got some good players in their teams. I just think potentially fighting for our position and watch us now get the hardest qualifying group ever. We'll end up with like Germany, Portugal, France, and Spain, and we won't make it, and we'll be hosting the Euros and not in it because he's stupid. Rooney for England.
Rooney for England, indeed.
Have all our coaches at international level.
I think we're all ready to wrap this one up then, guys. Thank you both of Josses. It's been great having you both on. Thank you to all our guests who came on tonight as well, and thank you for watching as well, getting your comments in and your questions and opinions. I will try and keep updated with questions. I've been seeing some people itching to get their questions in and their comments in. I do apologize, it's a working process. We are just first starting out on this. I've never properly done a live show before, but still, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great. Thank you, Josh and Josh, for joining me. And yeah, keep on, guys.
Just a quick one, Tommy, as well. I know that we are potentially...
I did the outro and everything, man. I'd like
we're potentially looking at a live stream after his press conference, which I've just seen your dad comment is 4:00 tomorrow. So we're potentially another live stream after that to discuss what he talks about.
Yeah, might be a bit of a shorter one. I'm wary of time for tonight. Obviously, it's going for an hour and 20, but I suppose it's big news. And tomorrow we'll just pick up on the things that Rooney's been saying in the press conference, and perhaps a little glimpse into the future as well. Perhaps what we can look forward to. But nonetheless, I'll do my outro again. Thank you guys for watching. It's been a great show. Thank you, Josh and Josh, for joining me. And yeah, keep right on.
Keep right on.
Keep right on.